Welcome to United Shades of Gray, Conversations of Race in America on WSGW. Now, here is your host, Kareem Bowen.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another edition of United Shades of Gray, Conversations of Race in America. We are going to have a great conversation today. We're going to talk a little bit about something that I think is very important and impacts everyone that is a part of the society, and that's community violence and violence intervention. So I want us to stroll down that lane and have a in-studio guest who has an organization called Civilized Felon by Mr. named Antonio Brooks, and he's going to be with us today as we get into that part of the conversation. But I am in studio with the producer of this fine show, John being the place to be. John, what's good?
Hello.
How have you been, John? I feel like we've been two ships in the night passing by, not connecting.
I've been here. I don't know where you've been.
John, this place would go crazy without him being here. Certainly thank him for everything that he does. But I want to get into a conversation. We always start by talking about what's hot off the press. Well, the thing that's taking place, and this is happening, this is Wednesday that we're doing this recording, so this is actually happening in tempo with this conversation. The Republicans, as we talked about a few weeks ago, they ousted their Speaker of the House, Mr. Kevin McCarthy, and now we are going through a series of events, and I knew that this would be an interesting process because of the division that exists within the Republican arm of our congressional Congress. But we're looking at now, first of all, John, let me make sure we get this right. So they ousted McCarthy with no real plan in sight in terms of what was going to happen. And then they brought in
Hold on.
Yes.
Then war broke out in the Middle East.
The Middle East was the time. I think the timing was like you couldn't ask for.
I'm sure at some level it wasn't a coincidence.
Yeah, I'm sure they're like, okay, the U.S. is limited in what they can do in this moment, so this may be an opportune time. We've been waiting. Let's strike now. You're absolutely right. So we get rid of the speaker, then war breaks out, and then we bring in a series of individuals that we thought, okay, this person will be good. This person will be good. Was it Scalise that was the first person to come in? Was it him?
I think he was one of the forerunners at first.
Yeah, one of the forerunners. He came through and by a simple majority, which is what's needed to become the speaker. He does so, but he recognizes something that Kevin McCarthy had to deal with. You got to get to that magic number 217, and if you can't get to it, then you're going to be basically chopping off your hands and your fingers at the nubs, just like McCarthy had to do in order to govern or to get the position. Because governing is a whole nother thing. And I think that's what McCarthy found out. He thought, once I'll get in, I'll be able to parlay the room and work through it. Whenever you set the standard that one person can bring a vote to the floor, it becomes a real problem. So Scalise, who was considered probably one of those individuals that had a great reputation, he could make things happen across the aisle. It was a brighter day. I think Democrats says, okay, that's someone that we can work with. And I think those 8 or 9 folks that are far, far, far on the right side of the room were like, we're never going to do this. So after the stopgap, McCarthy goes, war breaks out. Scalise comes in. He wins the position, but says, hey, I'm resigning because there's no way in the world I'm going to put myself through the turmoil of trying to deal with the antics that are taking place now. So he's out the window. So they bring back another guy who no one thought was going to be able to do it in the first place, which is my great guy, Jim Jordan. He reminds me of kind of like a Buzz Lightyear superhero kind of person or something. And so he comes in and he is defeated like overwhelmingly in his first attempt at the speakership. And it was interesting because people were like, we think that Hakeem Jeffries is going to get nominated before Jordan does. What were your thoughts? Do you think that Jordan has the goods that it takes in order to make this thing happen?
Does he have what it takes to get elected, or to take the seat, or to do the job?
Well,
those
are two very different questions. The first question, I want to answer both of those though, because I think they're very different. Do you think that he has what it takes to get the seat?
I think the external pressure is going to force someone to take the seat, and I think he's definitely one of the top options right now when it comes to who's willing to take the seat. When it comes to can he do the job, man, I don't know. I wouldn't want to do the job right now. I think Scalise had the right idea of, oh, wait a second. No. I'm not doing this.
I'm bailing out the parachute. So this is going to be interesting. So they're literally taking this vote as we are here recording for Sunday's show. And it's going to be interesting. I don't think that this is going to turn out in his favor the second go round either.
I've heard that people are planning to flip. So,
well, we went from he can only lose what 2 or 3 of these individuals, and he lost 20 the first go round. So there's a lot of conversations. Well, I mean, there's a lot at stake here.
Yeah.
And so what we're talking about, for those of you who are listening, because so many people don't have a clue as to what happens in government and why politics are important. And so they don't get involved with the process. But the fact of the matter is the speaker's position is so important because like war broke out, we were kind of joking about the timing of Hamas attack on Israel. But the funny thing is that if we don't have a speaker, then any type of an appropriations bill, any funding, anything that needs to go before the House does not have the ability to do so, because the role of the speaker is to bring those things to the floor so that they can be voted upon. We still have congressmen that are waiting to be sworn in, but because of this position, without a speaker, they cannot even be brought in and go through the process of being officially entered into the halls of Congress. So this is a very important thing, especially when one of our greatest allies, such as Israel, is at war. So that means that we can't fund anything. And it was interesting because I saw your president, John, on TV today.
Why do you do this to me every single time?
And what he's talking about is like all of the people that are not my people, I just make them John's people. So yeah, right. I saw John's president on TV today, and that couldn't be more funny than anything for me to say that. And he was talking about, yes, I'm gonna take the Congress, and I'm gonna say, hey, promote this bill that we provide funding for it. I'm like, dude,
I think it would be hilarious if he became Speaker of the House.
That would be crazy.
I think that would be so funny.
Oh my goodness.
And his name was brought up a few times on the floor, but
are you serious?
Oh yeah, initially, like right at the very beginning,
the
of
jokes
the whole
and all of that other stuff.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what happens. But this is okay. So the vote, 212 Jeffries, 199 Jordan. As I
Jeffries
said,
isn't going to make it.
He's not going to make it, but it looks like he has a closer chance of getting the position as a Democrat in the minority than someone from the majority. So this is really, this is the first time. This is new territory. We've never been here before, if I'm not mistaken, that this is the first time we're actually entering into this kind of a process.
And this is the danger of a two-party system is people are voting along party lines. Don't get me wrong. When the government isn't doing anything, Jonathan is happy.
That intense response was because my eyebrows kind of raised. Like, what we substituting this for? Yeah. So, what do you think in this particular situation, Jonathan? What do you think would be an alternative to a two-party system?
An alternative to a two-party system is a no-party system where people actually vote based on the merits of the candidate. It's not based off of the size of the war chest, which is funded partially through taxpayer dollars. There's limits on how much funding other parties can get. They've entrenched themselves into Washington, into Lansing, into every capital in the country, and they're not going to. Two parties aren't going to give up power as long as they can continue throwing rocks at one another, and as long as everybody agrees that, yep, those are the two parties, and I'm going to choose one side, and that's my team. It's ridiculous. Why don't you choose the candidate that you like more? Because all candidates are inherently unlikable.
Well, just like the second question that I was asking about Jen Jordan, how likely do you think that we would evolve to a no-party system?
It's not going to happen. That's how it was intended. That lasted all of one election in the United States, and then we went into maybe two elections in the United States, and then we went to a two-party system. So
Okay, so we'll see. Maybe we'll get a third party out there. Maybe one day the Green Party will become a real thing.
We were talking this morning about a poll that I think it's like 68% of Americans think there should be a third party now. That's a Gallup poll that came out.
Well, if you look at what we're dealing with here on today, two parties are getting locked in. People are lockstep. You're being forced to, even if you, this is what's crazy to me. Even if you have a differing opinion than your caucus, you're being forced because no one wants to be the outlier, and they're gonna, any suggestions that you have, they'll throw out the window whenever you make them if you don't agree with the party. They're being forced to basically create stalemates and create a government which does not function for the people. And this is so important. And so the reason why I think that this is very important is because when we look at the House, it is the people's house. When we talk about what did or did not happen, happened in my mind on January 6th, we're talking about what was taking place at the people's house. These Republicans are these representatives are the individuals who meet most often and have the greatest contact with us regular Joes around here who are able to give their opinions on how their government should run. And so it is the people's house that we're talking at. And so when we're talking about them playing politics, it's not just playing politics against the Democrats or against the Republicans. It is playing politics with the things that are important to us and how we live our life. And so it's very important that we begin to do the things and put people in office that are really, and you said it, I think that parties go out the window and let's deal with the issues. What are the merits of the issues that we're dealing with? I'm not a person who believes in personalities, but that's what we're getting. We're getting people who have charisma and a war chest, as you said, who's funded by someone. So when we see people get, this is what's funny, when we see most people come into political fame or we get to know them and we say, oh, they're an outsider, or, oh, they're, a maverick, or there's no such thing by the time you get there. Because you were bought with a price when you won your victory. And so it's important for us to make sure that as we do this, that we're concerned about issues, we continually push and push and push and push. It is the people's house. That means that we have the ability and the authority to make change happen there. But we've got to be willing to put aside our foolish differences that we have as communities to do what's right for our country. All right. So there is a part two. McCarthy got kicked out. Then there's this war in Israel. Do you consider yourself a Zionist?
Absolutely not.
Okay. So why not? Why or why not?
Why or why not?
Yes.
I don't know. I don't think.
And the reason, let me explain the reason I asked this question, because when people think of, they use the term Zionist, they're usually thinking that because we're Christians or we're believers or that we would fall into that category. And so that means that there's absolute resolve and support for Israel.
And I'm not anti-Jewish. I think the idea of a Jewish state is not necessarily something to be avoided, but it's not something to be lauded. It's just kind of like, okay, that's there. That's kind of my whole opinion on what's going on in the Middle East. And it's terrible. It is terrible, the loss of life.
I mean, especially the way that it occurred. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Yes. But it's one of those, I see why people support it. I see why people oppose it. And why do I need to choose a side?
Everyone has to choose a side.
No, I don't.
You're either for or against. But when we look at this and we look at Hamas attacking what was supposed to be a concert, then we see this is where I'm going. I asked that question because if you look at much of the news coverage, we stand in solidarity with Israel. Okay, which we pray for the peace of. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. It's what the word says. Since I am a believer, I believe in the word of God is like an infallible word, the only infallible word of God. So I stand there, right? Go ahead.
I've been able to process your question and form an answer, even though we've moved on. Okay. Why am I not a Zionist? Because the promised land was given to the Jewish people in the Old Testament. In the New Testament, Jesus came, and now all nations are God's people. There there's no more chosen people. There's no more chosen land. That's what I believe in religious terms. So
when we say chosen people, we're not just talking about a small group of people. We're talking about the gospel now being open, the pathways.
Exactly.
Okay, I see what you're saying.
And that's kind of, I think that's where my idea of not being a Zionist is rooted in.
Okay. Hey, and I'm not here to tell you yes or no. But what I do want to see, so all of these things are happening. Hamas. They want Hezbollah to get involved because if Iran comes in, then they got nuclear weapons that changes the entire landscape of what we're dealing with. But in the midst of what we're dealing with, Jonathan, there is a hospital that is bombed.
There is a parking lot that is damaged.
Well, it was a hospital and there's a parking lot, but anyways, so there, for all intents and purposes, there's a hospital that has been bombed, and I want to ask you this question because the Israel came out really strongly and was like, oh, it was a makeshift bomb or a bomb that exploded that they didn't handle right, referring and saying this was Hamas. Hamas is like, we didn't do it. What do you think is the likelihood that Hamas did not do this?
I think it's come out earlier. Again, this is on Wednesday. I think it came out earlier today that there was another group, something jihad in the name.
Okay,
that basically has been blamed.
And jihad is basically holy war. So
yeah, that has been blamed for basically misfiring a rocket, and it hit this parking lot. Now, that got, whether or not that killed 500 people, I don't know. I think there's misinformation and propaganda going all over the place.
So what do you think of the United States commander-in-chief going to meet with Israel and looking at what they say is proof that it wasn't them, but it was Hamas that had in fact done this, or had them listen to some secret tapes? Oh, see, that's what they're saying. He doesn't speak either of the languages, but yeah, what they're saying in that right there is that they made a mistake.
English?
And I'm coming back with a rebound. But do you think, because someone brought up the idea that there may be some espionage or some information tampering going on?
Yeah, probably.
With Israel not necessarily just wanting to take credit for the fact that they actually did this. What are your thoughts about that?
I think that the disinformation is so thick in this. It is everywhere. It is pervasive. And I think it is terrible that a lot of outlets are taking, I think it's terrible that a lot of people are taking one side or the other. I think it's terrible that a lot of outlets are taking one side's word for it or the other. I saw a report where it was Hamas says this, Israel says this, and people were attacking the reporter for saying, here are both sides of these people say this. Well, you're just taking their word for it. No, I'm presenting both sides of.
That's what journalists do, right?
Exactly. But
Okay.
no, you're just taking this side's word for it. No, you're taking that. No, they're telling you what people are saying.
So I think it's going to be interesting. We're going to see what happens with the speakership. We'll see what's going to take place if we ever get a speaker that can actually give any type of support or aid. But we have more important things in the world to talk about, because Jada Pinkett Smith, Jada Pinkett Smith is coming out with her book, and she's on her book tour. The name of the book is called Worthy. The name of the book is called Worthy, and in it, and you know how I am. I am a firm believer in the institution of marriage. I believe that before there was ever, and I'll say this: I'm a Christian pastor, or a believing pastor in the word. And so I believe that before he ever created a church, he created the family dynamic, and I think that is something that I will continually fight for. Because I think that is it gives and provides for every individual a safe place to call your own, where there should be unconditional love and support. And through that relationship, we become the great people that we are, right? You don't become Jonathan without a dynamic family supporting you and helping you become who you are. But Hollywood has a way of perverting every single thing that has any substance or good value to it. And once considered the elite couple, the marriage, Black excellence when it comes to love and relationships, They have been married for 2 decades. A lot of rumor and innuendo, but they've always been able to make it solid. And we've seen some things begin to unravel with the infamous slap that was heard around the world when Will Smith slapped Chris Rock on national TV during the Oscars, in which he was awarded the top award of the night. This is my thing. Because I'm frustrated because if you've kept the secrets of your family life and your dynamic secret, because I think those are intimate moments between a family, why would we now all of a sudden on a book tour without what seems to be the consent of the other party now begin to spill all of the not juicy details or the sordid details of that relationship? Does that bother you at all?
Why is it happening?
Yes.
Money.
What do you mean?
Now is the time. Oh, people paid attention to this slap. The spotlight went on the marriage. We can make money with a book deal. Let's do it.
So is your thought that he's involved with this process?
Will?
Yeah. Do you think he's involved with this?
No.
Because he looks crazy. On top of the fact that we're sharing these details, we find out in 2023 that 7 years prior that they had in their mind and in their emotional state gone through a divorce, that they've been living separately since 2016.
That doesn't surprise me too much.
It doesn't surprise me that much either, but I think it's just because of why lie about having solid marriages? Because what you do is you give people the thought process that no one in marriage situations are ever happy. Even when they look like they're happy, they're not happy. So why do it? Why enter into an institution such as marriage? And I'm a firm believer that when people come together and they're solid and they are honest and they love and they're open, that it gives a platform for the world to see that we can overcome our differences and love individuals who are not exactly the same and create those committed bonds and relationships.
But that's built on a certain set of morals and
Absolutely.
And personal responsibility that I think a lot of people in today's world don't have, and it's really unfortunate. It's why you see the degradation of the institution of marriage. You see so many marriages breaking down. It's because people don't have that value.
But don't you think stories like this, situations like this, they excel and they add,
yeah.
they hurt that. And the thing is that if our kids don't have a place where they can say, okay, this is who mom is, this is who dad is, and I can fully be 1000% who I am because they'll accept me as I accept them for love. If they can't have that experience, then what does that say to any relationship that they enter into outside of the one that is supposed to be the most stable? We're going to bring in real quick. We got our guest in the studio. He decides he wants to
no,
because he's getting married tomorrow. No, but go ahead.
Real quick, man, because like he was just talking about those values. I think we conform too much, man. Like they want to have open marriages and they want to have all of these modern beliefs and share it with their kids and let them do all of those different things, and it reflects on their relationship. So there's no values and morals anymore.
Well, I'll tell you one thing that it does. United Front for multiple reasons. I'll tell you one thing that it does is when I look at their kids, and I hate talking about kids, but kids are a product of the trees from whence they came. They're the fruit from the trees,
Absolutely.
Right? We can understand why neither of them have a set defined identity as in terms of who they are.
Right.
One is, I don't know, they said pansexual, the other one is bisexual. They've had bouts with, allegedly drugs and other things going on. But when the house is in turmoil and parents don't know if they love each other forever, and that turmoil, kids are able to pick up on the things that don't make sense in situations. And then we see them play those things out in their lives. We're going to take a quick commercial break. We're going to be back talking about community violence intervention. Stay tuned.
You're listening to United Shades of Gray on WSGW.
This is Kareem. You're back with United Shades of Gray, conversations of race in America. I'm in the studio with my producer, John B. John, what's good?
Hello, hello.
Hello, hello. And we also have with us in the studio, he's not a stranger. He's been here before, but he was here as a collaboration of a bigger group called HELP, Healing, Engagement, Love, and Presence. And one of the things that I've realized in terms of working with these guys, it is an amazing group of guys, first of all. If you want more information, help Saginaw at gmail.com. You can send an email there, but there's also, they're on social media, help, healing, engagement, love, and presence. You put those things in, it'll pop up. In working and getting to know these guys, it has been such an amazing experience. I'm finding out really people who I thought were just, that's a good dude, that's a good guy. As I have these conversations and we're working with these young people, I'm starting to see that we are really blessed. And it's almost like being an investigator in your own community, being able to understand and see people and get to know what they do and how they're impacting communities. And so I have with us today Antonio Brooks. He has an organization called Civilized Felon. And the more that I've been able to have conversations with him and talk with him, I have become really enamored with the work that he does. And when I say that, today I got up this morning and I'm working on proposals and other things that I do. And I call him like, hey, what are you doing? He's like, hey, I'm grabbing some cans of Narcan and we're getting ready to hit the streets and we're going to go knock. We're going to some trap houses. I understand this is not an urban radio platform. So let me explain to you. When we talk about trap houses, we're talking about those houses. It's funny, but we need to explain this. Yeah. We're talking about those drug houses where people go, they'll flop. We used to call them flop houses. Yeah. They'll go, they'll use drugs, they'll stay there, pass out, whatever it is. But these homes are infamous, or what takes place there is the use, the sale, or maybe even at some cases, the production of illegal drugs. So he's going around the community, knocking on doors, talking with people about what's going on, providing drug intervention and help and all. And I was sitting there like, this is what I want to do when I grow up. I want to be on the front line. Let me be on the front line. Get back in the office. But welcome, Antonio, once again to United Shades of Gray. We certainly appreciate you being here.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
All right. So I got to ask this question. Why this particular field? Are you a recovering addict? What's the situation? How did you find yourself in this place, and how are you so passionate about it?
Well, I was never an addict, but I had experiences with addicts growing up, as you know. Well, just to put it plainly, like part of the reason why the community is so messed up is because people still selling drugs, and I was once a part of that needle or that thorn in the side of our community. I was helping with the wrong thing. So this is a way of me giving back and helping kind of fix what I helped messed up years ago. And you don't always have to be a recovering addict to be a recovery coach, you know what I'm saying? But you have to have some type of experience with addiction.
Could you imagine if everyone had that same philosophy? Because I've run into guys who are saying, you know what? I used to sell drugs, or I used to be addicted. Now I'm going back because I want to help the community that I put in this state. Could you imagine if a cheating husband, a cheating spouse, wife, husband had that same philosophy on going back and restoring pieces, of people's marriage? I mean, just every aspect. Yeah. If we took the philosophy that I'm going to give back and make better the area of the community that I gave, that I created that was not good, how much we would change as a community. That would be so powerful.
Yeah.
You have so share a little bit about what you do. So you're a recovery coach.
So today, when you say that, I actually literally went back today. Me and my coworker, her name Heather.
He was in the hood keeping it gully. Y'all don't know about that now.
So Stop and Shop on 6th Street. When I was a kid, I used to go up there and sell. You know what I mean? But today I went up there and talked to some of those guys about getting some help, getting into treatment. being able to try to provide some resources. Like, bro, if you want to get back in school, or if you need some help doing resumes, or you need some housing, because a lot of the guys out there literally are homeless. They living in like RCO shelter or the Good Samaritan shelter, stuff like that. So they have to leave in the morning. And a lot of them don't have nowhere to go, so they just hanging outside. And while they out there, that's why we went over there and talked to them and gave them some handouts and some Narcan and fentanyl test strips and stuff like that.
What, how has, because it's become more easily available to get a hold of Narcan, right?
Yeah.
Okay. How has that changed the game as it relates to overdose and drug? How has that changed the game?
Man, Narcan saving lives out here, bro. Because they putting this stuff, they putting that fentanyl. People are not intentionally using fentanyl all the time.
Okay.
So they think they get one thing and somebody is lacing it with that fentanyl, and then they end up overdosing. And so, you know, if Narcan is on hand and somebody know how to use it, which is really easy to use, it's just like a nasal spray. You pop in their nose and hit them once or twice with it, and they'll wake up. But you definitely got to call 911 first. You know what I mean? To let them know that you got somebody overdosing. But it'll bring them back. You know what I mean? And in some cases, you might have to hit them again with it. But it's saving lives. I saw it and I've done it.
I was in a situation, and I was called to a house of someone that had been they passed out.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they were out, and the spouse called me and wasn't sure exactly what to do. I'm like, listen, call 911. I was able to get there right before 911 got there. I mean, dude is out, like no response whatsoever. And so I'm thinking like, oh, he's having a heart attack. Oh, this is, all of these things are going on. And the EMS worker comes to, he stands on the side. He says, hey, just keep massaging his hands. And we're talking like, okay. He says, now he says this, the person's unconscious. He says, if I hit him with this is Narcan. If I hit him with this and he comes to, that means that he's been abusing substances.
Yep.
Okay. This is someone that I've had these conversations with before. They would never admit that this was what a part of what their problem was. And so he says, here I go. He hits him with the Narcan. Guy wakes up. It was like magic.
Yeah.
He comes awake, and then he goes, well, now you know what that means. And so we start having a conversation. I'm like, hey, this is what's going on. You know, I'm doing my little pastorally piece. You know, this was told that if this happens, this, you know, so what's going on? What's the real issue? Have you been? No. And they went right back to the denial mode.
Yep.
But it gave indisputable proof that this was an issue, which allowed us to continue that line of questioning to make sure that that individual could even, because, you know, you got to admit that there's a problem.
You have to admit that there's a problem, and you have to want the help, because there's help out there. But speaking of pastor, like a lot of churches probably should get some Narcan and some of those kits, just because you never know who might just pick one up. You don't have to ask no questions, just set some out. And you, man, if you ever give some Narcan away, just know that you're saving a life.
Wow. Yeah. I'm learning that the Saginaw County Health Department even has free cans. If you're in Michigan, the Saginaw area, free cans of Narcan, fentanyl test strips, condoms, and COVID tests.
Yep.
And you can go to the lobby and get them. No questions asked.
No questions asked. It's in a vending machine.
Okay. Now, the reason we're having this conversation, and we're talking a lot about drugs, and you were talking about how you were a pathogen. I'll use the term.
A pathogen.
A virus. You were part of that process.
I was definitely.
That caused decline in our community. And we've all been that way. I said, so if we could do that in every area that we've ever been a nuisance to the community, we would really, truly have some great communities. When we're talking about community violence intervention, and I want to make sure that this is clear. When we talk about community violence intervention, we're talking about a philosophy. And the philosophy is that people who are in communities that have high propensities of violence, where people have been shot or their family members are there, they've been impacted by especially gun violence,
right,
that the answers to how to deal with those issues isn't going to come from law enforcement. People are like, oh, we need more police. And they're going to come from the communities in which this type of violence takes place.
Right.
Because I know the streets. I know where the trap houses are. I know who the boys are hanging on the corner. We have a greater understanding of how these things in our community work. So when we look at this, we often attack violence in our community by what we just said, policing. Or we'll do a public service announcement. Or we'll say, let's get an entertainer and let them come in and they'll sign autographs. None of these things are the way that happens.
No.
There is a subculture that exists in communities. Violence has a subculture.
Right.
And so we got to begin to deal with some of these issues. So you walking the streets, putting boots on the ground, walking the streets, knocking on doors of trap houses, talking with people on corners and liquor stores about what's going on. That is one of the best, most effective ways, because you're getting into the trenches where people are. How do you continually find the strength and the passion to continue this type of work when it's not a pretty line of work?
It's not. Well, the thing is, you got to think about when I was out. You got to think about when you were out there, or me, myself. I was out there doing it for nothing. You know what I mean? I work. So let me send a shout out to Families Against Narcotics. That's the organization that I work for. We got Hope Not Handcuffs, QRT, Quick Response Team. We come out there after somebody probably had an incident of an overdose or something like that, and we come out and just offer different avenues of help. But yeah, that's who I work for, and that's who I was out there with today, my coworker, Heather from FAN. And so, like, and speaking of those Narcans, we was at the soup kitchen too, and they have a dispenser out there too.
A Narcan dispenser?
A Narcan dispenser right outside.
Remember, you used to just put a quarter in and you go get some bubble gum and you try to get the ring out the machine. Now we got Narcan dispensers.
But the thing is, so me, just because I'm from the streets don't mean I know everybody in the streets.
That's right.
So I still go up to them as if I do, and they appreciate that. The guy today told me, I'm not gonna say his name obviously, but after I showed him the Narcan and the fentanyl test strips and stuff like that, he was like, man, you know what? I ain't even gonna lie, I got some boy on me right now, which is heroin.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, bro, if you out here with that stuff, you need to learn how to use this Narcan. Because we do have, it's not just abstinence. We do have a thing called harm reduction, and you just show people how to use safely. You know what I mean? Or tell them how to use safely, and be just be knowledgeable of what you're doing, so you don't kill yourself or somebody else.
Wow. Go ahead.
And there, I keyed off that harm reduction thing when you were talking earlier about Narcan. That's part of the push. I won't say push, but the initiatives that hand out like clean needles, gloves, the harm reduction aspect of it. And there have been studies that have shown that actually helps people get out of addiction.
Yeah, it's another avenue too. It's called MAT or MAR at some places, medically assisted recovery or medically assisted treatment. So you can go to some clinics. They have like methadone clinics to people go in there and they get the methadone and stuff like that, and it helps wean them off. And then you got Suboxone. They got the Suboxone program, and that helps a lot of people too.
You are giving me all kind of insight and information that I've never even heard of. But I do want to make it clear. I want to clarify something. I made an analogy about the 25 cents and getting the bubble gum out. But those vending machines that have Narcan, those are absolutely free. You don't need any coins to do that. So I don't want to confuse anybody. If you have the need,
just take one. Because people going in there and cleaning out the machine, just take one, man. You ain't gonna have 5 people ODing at one time. Just let it be, enough for everybody to spread out, because that's important.
What are the places for people who are listening? Where are the places that you're most likely able to find things like Narcan or fentanyl test strips, those kind of things? If for someone who's not, I don't want to call in because I don't want their number on my phone. Where are likely places that they could probably go to find out these things?
So you can walk into the health department. Obviously, they got it in the vending machine. The Saginaw Police Department have it because we do have a contract with them.
Most police departments are having it now.
Departments. Yep. And so, and speaking of police, so the QRT, they go out. That's a part of FAN. They go out.
Quick response team.
They go out with us. They share the information with us for people that might have overdosed previously the week previous, and we get together and we show up to offer them help. Only reason the police come is just to be able to knock on the door and make the introduction. It's not nothing criminal. They're not going to arrest nobody, because actually there's a law that you cannot be arrested for overdosing or for being in possession of drugs if you're using. I'm trying to think. I forgot the name of that law. What's the? It's a
We
law.
turn to Jonathan because Jonathan,
Oh.
find out you know everything, Jonathan.
Yeah, no. But it's a law that if you got in trouble, you don't or overdosed, and you got to call the cops. They cannot arrest you for nothing. So don't be afraid to call the police or the ambulance if somebody's ODing. Basically,
Yeah.
Oh, that's part of the Good Samaritan
that's
law.
the Good Samaritan.
Of course,
law. That's
Jonathan
it.
knows.
I knew there's another
Yeah.
aspect to the Good Samaritan law, but it's lumped in with that.
Yeah.
What is the other aspect to that, Jonathan?
Well, the other aspect is you can't be held liable if someone's overdosing,
trying to save them,
and you give them Narcan or you do something else in an attempt to save them, you're protected against certain liabilities when it comes to that.
That's important to know.
Wow. Okay. So, and here in our county, we have on Tuesdays from 8 to 12 and 1 to 3 free drug paraphernalia at Saginaw County Health Department. And that's in room 202. If you're listening, you're from somewhere else. If you hit these same areas in your community, I guarantee you, community health departments, they're always going to have the same things that we're talking about here. Police departments are now carrying, I think, almost in every 50 states, Narcan as a way for us to do immediately treatment. But all of these things are a part of this world, the subculture of violence. I want to shift just for the last couple of minutes because you're doing something that I think is really cool. And you've been getting, your phone has been ringing off the hook. We talked about this briefly just for a hot second, and it has just been going crazy, getting calls from people all across the state.
Yeah.
And I want to talk about the work that you're doing with civilized felon and helping individuals who have felonies that fall within this expungement opportunity, what you're doing, because through the work that you're doing, we are now here in the county of Saginaw going to be doing an expungement clinic with the AG's office. And it has just been great. There are so many people who are able to fall into it. Talk to us about civilized felon.
Well, civilized felon. What did you say? I was my own case study, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it started with me, man, because it was so many doors being slammed in my face while I was trying to get an education. The fact that I had a felony or that I had a couple felonies, it just kept like snatching the rug from under my feet. I was going to school for social work, wasn't able to take the internship because of a felony, and I was trying to go to school to do the work to help the people that, you know what I mean,
Right.
that was like me. But that I couldn't do that. So I just started becoming more of an entrepreneur and doing a lot of things on my own. So I just figured that the knowledge and the things that I picked up, you know, over the years, I just wanted to share it with other people and help them get to the level where they need to be at, even though they, you know what I mean? Because I work at TriCap with a lot of guys, and TriCap is like it's like an alternative to prison. And some people think it's treatment. It's not a treatment center, but it's a place that people are doing time at. And
so it's an alternative to well, if you can't do a community placement where you can be a part of the community, you can go to TriCap, and TriCap is an alternative to prison, but it is an in-house living.
It's an in-house
with
living
24
facility.
hours of surveillance and those kinds of things. Okay,
yeah. And those people, those guys in there, you used to be able to get out and go to work, but they don't even let them guys get out and go to work no more. You know what I mean? So they just stuck in there without no resources or nothing. So like, I go in there and I try to bring resources. So the organization Fan that I work for, they gave me some computers that I could take in, and I sit the guys down and I fill out, show them how to fill out MDHHS applications for insurance if they need to get a bridge card. I even help them fill out Section 8 applications and housing and stuff like that, and bring in clothes and shoes and stuff like that. You know what I mean? I got a call today from a guy who wanted to donate 50 suits. And shout out to Brian Pruitt, because he donated about 50 suits to me for those guys. So it's like interview clothes, and they need street clothes too. They need shoes and all of that type of stuff. So, but they be on me too, man. I'll be like, man, I ain't got all of this stuff now.
And the idea is that if we get in there and we work with these citizens, these men and women, that when they get into the community, that they will have a footing to be able to become a positive contributor to society instead of a negative.
Absolutely.
All right. So as you're doing this work, what seems to be the biggest hindrance towards your success?
Well, it ain't about my success. It's about the success of the guys that I'm working with.
Right.
And the hindrance that I notice is that I don't have a lot of resources that will allow these guys to be housed when they come home. Because a lot of them been in prison for 7, 8 years. They get out and then they end up having to go do that program. They don't have family. They don't have no support out here. So we got like a couple recovery houses in Saginaw. I plan on doing a recovery house. I want to do that because that's the biggest barrier. Because when people get out, man, if they've been in there doing the work and they get out and they don't have nowhere to go, man, that's gonna send them back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Well, a part of violence intervention
exactly.
is understanding what makes people feel that violence is the only response to what I'm dealing with in this moment.
Right.
So if you come back into a community and you don't have the things that you need, aka housing, then violence becomes an option.
I'm gonna go rob somebody
to get what you need,
or I'm gonna go do something because I'm gonna be mad and things gonna start happening. I'm gonna get back out here on the streets, start back drinking, start back getting high, and getting right back into the street life that I'm trying to get away from. You know.
So how do people connect with you as you're doing the work with Civilized Felon, with Fan, and walking the streets? How do people connect with you? Because I would imagine like employability is also another issue.
Yeah.
So if they have jobs and they say, hey, you know what? We heard the guy that was looking for companies who may accept felons.
Oh, okay. So you can email me at civilizedfelon@gmail.com. I'm on Civilized Felon on Facebook, or Antonio Brooks on Facebook. I'm working right now, currently working on a website, civilizedfelon.com. I sent you some of the some of the stuff.
Okay.
But on that website, I'm gonna have resources to anything and everything that a person could think of. So I'm already working on it. Like, you can go on there and find housing, medical insurance, free transportation, and all type of stuff. So I'm just gonna be a hub for people to be able to go to my website and look for exactly what they want and find it.
All right. I think that that's important because being able to refer to people to the place where they can receive assistance is important. Now, let's talk a little bit about this expungement process. Challenges that you currently see with how the AG's office has set up the expungement process. What are some of those challenges?
I don't see any challenges.
Okay, because you went through this process. You did it yourself, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's like I thought I had all my record expunged, but I got a call the other day from the attorney and told me that the judge, which is Judge Barillo, he told me that it was already automatically taken off. You didn't even have to come to court. So she called me and told me, she was like, well, you still got one on your record that we got to set another court date for. So you got to just make sure you're doing your due diligence, man. And because me thinking all my stuff was gone, I could have went apply for something, and you know what I mean. That could have showed up and and bit me on the butt, and I'd have been like, man, what's going on?
How much does that process cost to get a record expunged?
Mine was free,
but I think the total associated fees is about $50.
Yeah,
that's accessible.
Yes.
Well, I don't know. I think it's more than that.
Maybe more than that.
I think it's more than that. But I think it need to be more, like you said, more agencies doing that stuff for free, man. Because I don't know, it's a lot of cost to that.
I want to give a shout out to Damon Tibbs over at the Public Defender's Office. They've been doing expungement clinics. They're a part of what's going to be taking place here in the city of Saginaw. He and Aita Soa, who is the guy who created Bridge the Gap. We need everyone in our community to do their part of making our community a better place, whether it's expungement clinics, whether it's mentoring, if it's just providing a safe place for someone to live. These things are all important as we begin to chip away at this thing called community violence. It takes every individual in the community to show some unity to get rid of this violence. We want to thank you for tuning in today for United Shades of Gray. And as always, take care of yourselves and each other.